Again, we're live in Biloxi, and I want to talk to NBC reporter Ron Blome. Ron, you've been out. Again, I saw you here last week. We were talking about...
For more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, more than 2 weeks here. Last week when I was here, we were talking about how a lot of these people were complaining that they hadn't seen FEMA or any agencies helping them out. Situation in some areas really hasn't unchanged. Remarkable. Tell us about that.
You know what a lot of people in America don't realize is that when you have a disaster, your first humanitarian response comes from private groups like the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and then generally we see within 3 or 4 days later FEMA comes in and sets up and they start handing out response checks and all that. This is so big, this hasn't happened. And in fact, they feel forgotten. I was down tonight talking to people. They say they feel forgotten by the government, and it is only these voluntary agencies, the volunteers, that are keeping them in mind. And I want to share with you a little piece we did today as we were out following the volunteers. Okay. Let's look.
We have scrambled eggs and sausage this morning. We have fried taters.
And they have plenty of customers. The Salvation Army is fueling the recovery, feeding the survivors, whether in walk-up kitchens or by driving the streets where dozens of vans find storm survivors standing by their battered homes. The Salvation Army is all about getting out every day, 3 times a day, without a lot of bureaucracy.
Did y'all have enough food yesterday? Did you run out?
The morning meeting at Staging Ground Biloxi. Volunteer drivers from across the country get their orders and find answers to difficult questions. Who gets food? How much? The answer is the same. Meet the need.
These are hot meals, all right? It's hard to hoard hot meals. They're just not going to keep, all right? So we don't have to worry about people taking them and hoarding them. Okay, so they take 5 meals because they're worried they may not be able to catch us for the next 5 days. So what? We're still feeding them.
Feeding them from compact but high-energy kitchens. 7,000 meals out of each trailer a day. 20,000 just into this community. Meeting that need, the best reward for volunteers.
I feel so honored and blessed that I could actually be a part of helping these people.
Blessings, too, just down the street at this Catholic church serving the Vietnamese community, where the Red Cross hands out donations from California.
We, Red Cross, we don't ask any question. We're only here to help. Any need.
And Joe, we found volunteers from across the country, from Montana, from California, New Yorker, a stockbroker whose office was across the World Trade Center. He said he had to come down, he had to give back. Now, FEMA is looking for space to put up a tin in Biloxi, but it's going to be nearly 3 weeks after the storm hit the city before they have a presence in Biloxi.
And Ron, you look around here, Biloxi, and you've been following storms. You have connections with the Gulf Coast. I think we all agree this is as bad as it gets. Have you talked to any FEMA officials or anybody that has an explanation why it took them 3 weeks to come to a place that's really, by all practical purposes, ground zero of Katrina?
I think they're overwhelmed by it. I don't think they can keep up with the breadth. But to give you an example, we've been visiting with this one family down the street, just a half mile from here. He's called FEMA the day after the storm. He's called FEMA again 2 days ago. He called them today, and when I said, what did they tell you? He said, they gave him a hard time about getting his bank account number in. He wants the $2,000 aid he can get. They said, don't count on it. And he said he wanted to amend his claim to add that his 2 vehicles were destroyed. He has no transportation. He has no power. He has no trailer. And they said the FEMA operator refused to amend his report because it had already been filed to include that his vehicles were destroyed. So how is this person going to get aid except from the volunteers like the Salvation Army and the Red Cross? They're desperate.
They are desperate. Ron, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. You know, the most maddening